I am Ryan O'Dowd, and this is the Black Hand Communique. Today's episode is going to be called Income Inequality Shrug, Break the Banks, Yes. Now, I'd like to start this episode by giving you a little bit of a summary about what I'm going to talk about, as I usually am wont to do. Income Inequality Shrug. Here's my basic thesis of this. I don't give a shit about income inequality. Does it surprise you as someone that's usually considered to be on the left? Maybe it might. I'll go into why I don't and how it's connected to the second part of the video in just a second. Part 2, break the banks, yes. This is my usual thesis and what I've been pushing for and the very revolution that I think can bring the real radical right and left together in America and in Europe, which is we must break up the banks to tiny little fucking pieces until they don't exist anymore, sell off the assets and give the money to everybody else so that we can finally attempt to have somewhat of a just system. And that gives me another idea for video. Don't let me forget about it, which is going to be the difference between justice and redistribution and the difference between justice and liberty. That'll be different. But this one's called Income Inequality Shrug and Break the Banks, yes. So, here we go. Of course, going to talk about Bernie again, because I just keep fucking talking about this guy, even though I'm really not trying that much to be a celebrant for a particular politician. I don't like politicians as a code of ethics, not even as a personal disgust, but I actually think it's wrong to like politicians in general, even if you like them and they agree with you on things. But Bernie's main thing he likes to talk about is income inequality. Talk about the difference between the rich and the poor, and that's good with me. I don't care either way. You could fire lots of people up by doing that. You create a nice moral message and play off a legitimate class issue that exists in the country by doing that, and hopefully get people out to the voting booths by doing so. But to me, as an abstract issue, and in other words, just thinking about it, not talking about how it applies to real life, but just talking about it in the abstract and in its own little circle, income inequality does not bother me a fucking tiny little bit. Whether a guy makes $450,000 a year or $20,000 a year does not bother me at all, as long as it's properly representative of the value of the work that they're doing. And I do believe, you might call that right wing. There's probably communists out there who want to say it right off the bat. That's a right wing point of view. To even assume that there could be discrepancies based on talent and skill is right wing, and I'm going to do nothing to do with you. And if that's the case, tell me in the comments below. That's okay. I don't give a shit about what you think, but I'm trying to generate likes here. So go ahead and be confrontational towards me. That's fine. But I do believe, and I think anyone that's sane can acknowledge, that there are legitimate differences in talent and skill between human beings, and that it should certainly be represented in the reward of what they do compared to what they're capable of. Now, obviously, without getting too far into it, because there's a whole huge discussion that could come from this, obviously, if someone is literally disabled, they should get money. That's my opinion. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that work, that are able-bodied, able of mind, and that they have a difference in discrepancy in their income that represents the natural talents. I don't care that a surgeon makes $450,000 a year healing people's lungs if I'm making, $40,000 a year as an artist or whatever, because frankly what he does is a lot more important than what I do. And I think that people that do things that fundamentally help humanity and that they go to learn for a long time to be able to do should be rewarded financially for doing that work for one another. I think that's just a basic part of life. That's removed, though, from the reality of life and the economics of Realpolitik, which does change things a little bit, because in real life there are a whole bunch of rich people who don't make money by doing things that are good for other people. Okay? So I'm just saying, to start out with, inequality shrug, because yes, there are legitimate differences in talents that every human being has, and even if we manage to create the pseudo-utopia we would have to make it so that every woman, man, gay, straight, black, white, religious differences, anything doesn't matter, and we're solely judged based on our actual performance in life, which would be wonderful, there would be differences. Just pronounced differences. And I would hope that the person working at, General Medical is making a whole lot more than the person who's driving pizzas around. That's me. You might disagree. You might think that the guy that drives pizzas around should make as much or more than the surgeon. I don't, because I think that's fucking stupid. That's my point of view. Now, so there you go. Inequality, shrug. Break the banks, yes. This gets to part 2 of the video. Now, we look at the realpolitik of wages and class in this country and in the Western world, and we see something that's significantly different than what I just said. And that is, the people at the top of the pyramid are not the ones doing the most work to help the most people. Not even the ones that have the most responsibility for anyone other than themselves in managing their property. You see, that's the big fucking difference. The ones that are at the top of this little playground that we call the global economic system, the capitalist fucking mosquito sucking the blood out of everybody worldwide, they're making their money by owning things, by managing armies, by loaning fake money to get more fake money back, or by simply owning the printing press itself. That is a completely different class of people, and they are the ones that everyone on the right and left should agree need to fucking come down, need to be torn down from their thrones, and to be fucking sent into the ground forever. This class, whatever you want to call them, I call them capitalists, but if you want to call them crony capitalists because you're afraid to criticize capitalism, that's your own choice. I think you're a fucking coward, but that's your own choice. If you want to call them the statists, that's fine. If you're afraid to criticize the state because you're a fucking communist, well, I think there's something wrong with you too, but that's just me. But nonetheless, this cabal, this general cabal of financiers and landlords and military apparatus and politicians, and I'm missing something, and bankers. Oh, I said financiers. So there you go. This general apparatus that sits at the very top of our pyramid in this world, they all make their money by just extracting it from everyone. It's basically by owning the land, which really means possessing the land, which really means threatening everyone else into extracting what they want from them who are sitting on the land. Everyone else being me and you, regardless of our politics, because I guarantee you, no one that's fucking doing casinos in Monaco, playing Baccarat, pretending to be James Bond for fun, in between fucking drinks of 200-year-old brandy, really watches YouTube that much. That's my point of view. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. If you think so, say it in the comments, you dumb shit. Now here's the problem. These guys are making all their money. Now they're playing the right wing against the left wing, because they're telling the right wing, tell the left wing that there's real income discrepancies from talent, because we're on top because we're the most talented ones. And then they're telling people on the left, tell the people on the right, they need the government to redistribute the wealth from you, because if they don't, then you're going to be an asshole. And the people on the top don't pay taxes anyway. They just own everything. They own the government. They own the land. And they are summed up to me, for the case of simplification, as the bankers, the banks, the big guys. All right? Break them up, and we will have a happier day, and at least a chance at what both the noble goals of the left and the right are. The noble goal of the left being equality, the noble goal of the right being liberty. We'll only have a chance at liberty and equality for anyone else besides them if we fucking get rid of them. And that's it. So, I have to talk about Bernie again, but the only reason I'm supporting Bernie is because he fucking wants to break up the banks. And he is not a rich motherfucker born into a rich family. He's the son of a plumber or something like that. I don't give a shit quite enough to memorize it, but some working class guy. He really is not rich. And you can tell in his temperament he's not rich. Which is also why I would never vote for Trump. Not that being rich, in theory, is wrong, because inequality, shrug. If we lived in a system based upon talent and skill and merit, rather than a system based upon ownership and exclusion and interest and military dominance, then I would be perfectly fine with big income discrepancies between people. The guy that sells pizzas at Domino's does not deserve the same amount of money as a surgeon. Period. He just doesn't. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where the guy at Domino's makes a tiny, tiny amount of money. The surgeon makes this amount of money. And then the people that own everything, that give interest loans, that are landlords, that run the military and the state, They are up here, and they are making more money than the surgeon does. Now, that doesn't make any goddamn sense, no matter what political persuasion you have, that those fuckers should make more than the surgeon. What are they doing that's so goddamn important for us? Nothing. They do nothing but to preserve their own class. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call that class. Doesn't matter. It's identifying them as the problem, not the surgeon. Not the professor that's making money. Not the guy that started out as a fry cook and now he owns 10 restaurants and so he's got a decent living. That's not the problem. The problem is the fuckers at the top. The bankers are the problem. So this has been called... Well, you know what? I'm going to continue on for a second. Let me explain how this works. We just mentioned the guy that owns 10 restaurants because he started as a fry cook. All right? The guy that owns 10 restaurants because he started as a fry cook has hired the delivery driver. Now, the guys at the top own all the land in town. Everyone's paying a mortgage. Everyone's paying taxation to the state. Everyone is paying rent. Okay? Everyone's doing that. So all that money being taken out is inflating the costs for the guy that owns the restaurant, which means he's got more of an incentive to steal labor from the guy driving the pizza truck. So actually, while the top is whispering to the pizza truck guy saying use the state to get food stamps, they're actually extracting the very value that then the little tiny entrepreneur guy is extracting out of the pizza guy. Now, of course, is he exploiting labor? He's absolutely exploiting labor. I think only a fool would say that he's not exploiting labor. But who's really doing the exploitation in this scene? Is it the pizza guy? Well, surely not. He's delivering pizzas. Meritocracy says he shouldn't make as much as a surgeon, but if you took out all that theft coming from the very top, from the banking class, he would probably be making a lot more money anyway, because the man in the middle would have the ability to do that. Okay? Now, we're not going to get in the position to raise the income of the guy in the bottom until we break up the guys on the very, very top. Neither are we going to get to a point where we can actually allow true income inequality, Shrug, to express itself fairly until we break up the guys that are at the very fucking top, because they're stealing and killing everyone that gets... stealing everything and killing everyone that gets in their way, so that we aren't able to make the discrepancy work out in a natural way. That's why the right-wing noble pursuit of liberty and the left-wing noble pursuit of equality, neither of which is happening, is because of the bankers. So... this has been called Income Inequality Shrug, Break the Banks. Yes, I'm Ryan O'Dowd of the Black Hand Communique saying, fuck the banks.